So during a recent conversation with somebody, they got very angry with me, said a lot of mean and hurtful things out of anger. I don't think they necessarily meant them, but they said a lot of things that was obviously meant to make me angry and make me reactive. I didn't react. I kind of just smiled, got up from the table, walked away, and said to them, "We'll speak when they're a little calmer." And interestingly, there was someone else in the room, and a few minutes later, they got me outside and asked me, "Dude, how did you stay so calm? How are you so calm, and how did you manage to walk out there with a smile on your face?" All I said to them was, "It doesn't matter as long as I'm smiling." So I didn't actually tell them why I was smiling, but I'm going to tell you guys today. So we've all been there. We've all been in a situation where people say mean things to us and hurtful things to us. Sometimes to hurt us, sometimes just because it's how they feel. And normally, and the old me would have been very reactive to that situation. I would have been very hurt by it. It would have affected me for days, even weeks. It would have affected my productivity. It would have affected how I feel about myself. And that's quite natural. The reason why that is quite natural is because we all have voices in our head, and these voices tell us things that align with a message that we received either subconsciously or through our actions as we were growing up from a young age. They usually start from a very young age, where these little insecurities come from an event, something that happened in our childhood, or even as we were growing up, even in our adolescence. We develop these narratives in our head based on our life experiences. And what I learned over the years, and especially in my recent life, is that that voice is just a response and a reflection of some of the worst memories we have. Our bodies, and as humans, we are programmed and we're designed to survive. So our first instinct and our natural instinct is a survival instinct, is fight or flight. So our body will more aggressively remember and categorize and sort of pay attention to and respond to things that we perceive as threats. And these can be things that physically happen to us, things that hurt us emotionally, any type of hurt and discomfort. Our bodies, our minds, and even our cells, they register them and they record them. And that voice in your head is a response to all of that. That voice is just a combination of some of the worst experiences and memories that we have. And what I learned, especially recently, is that when it all comes down to it, that voice is a whole liar. That voice tells whole lies. Let me explain what I mean. So we go through things in life and we experience things, and we get very fearful about the future based on experiences. And again, like I said, that voice in our head. And I used to be the type of person where if somebody says, and this actually happened to me in sort of a previous relationship I was in, where the person would say the most horrible things to me, and I would to myself say, you can say what you like, nothing you say is worse than what I say to myself. And let me tell you today, that is one of the most toxic things you can do, is to say mean and horrible things to yourself. And for me to acknowledge that I was at the time saying worse things to myself about myself than they were, and they were being pretty mean, is hyper toxic. And it speaks to where I was at mentally at the time. And thankfully, I'm past that part of my life. And that's why I see things differently. Because the first thing I learned was that those type of thoughts, those type of emotions, and those type of narratives and that little voice in your head, they find other voices that spew the same nonsense. So because I was saying it to myself, my mind was automatically picking up everybody else that was saying it about me. And that voice in your head will go and it will find validation for its existence. So if you think that you are the worst human being on the planet, you're going to find things within your life that's going to substantiate that thought and that self-image. And the truth is, if we all went out and we made a highlight reel of the worst things we've ever done and the worst mistakes we've ever done in the world, it will be a pretty damning highlight reel. And that voice, like I say, will find other voices to substantiate it. That's how it works. It's just a very bad, very low vibration mentality, and it will find other low vibration scenarios and evidence of that low vibration. So when she was saying horrible things to me, of course, that voice in my head was going, you know what, she's right, and I'm a horrible human being. Thankfully, I'm past that stage in my life, and I accept and I acknowledge that that voice is an absolute liar. That voice comes from a place of lack of faith. So we all make mistakes in life. We all do things that don't go exactly the way we want them to go. We all do things that we wish we could have done better, and that we could have. There are things that we wish we could have done, but we just can't. And that doesn't make us bad people. It makes us human. We all make mistakes. And the funny thing is, these mistakes and the errors that we make and the things that we get wrong is the things that help us grow. Our growth comes from mistakes. We wouldn't grow and we wouldn't evolve as people and we wouldn't get better as human beings if we didn't make mistakes. So those mistakes are important. Those mistakes are growth. And I think we need to change our relationship with mistakes and with failure. I felt that in my life, a lot of the failures and a lot of the things that was meant to grow me as a person was the things that I used to feel that voice. And that voice got stronger and stronger and stronger as time went on. But you see, that voice and that mentality and that narrative that's going on in your head comes from a place of lack of faith. It comes from a place where you don't understand that your growth is important, and everything that's happening to you and everything that you are doing, every mistake you are making is part of your growth, and it's there to grow you into something. God is putting these obstacles and these things and letting you make mistakes so that you can grow, because He's molding you into something that's going to serve the world and that's going to serve His purpose for you. And it's important that you go through these mistakes and make these mistakes and feel these little pains so that you can grow. Something interesting I realized as I paid closer attention, I realized that as I was making mistakes, and some of the mistakes I've made in my life really should have been the end of me in more ways than one, but I always seem to come out the other side. And I used to think it was luck, and I used to think that yes, I have a guardian angel on my shoulder, but I never acknowledged that it was part of a bigger plan until recently. And the interesting thing happened once I realized that it's part of a bigger plan, and that it's actually part of God's design that we make these mistakes and we grow from these mistakes. Then I realized that the mistakes weren't mistakes. They're part of a design that we just aren't aware of. We are meant to be molded, and we are meant to be shaped into something better. But we're not going to become something better until we start from a place of humility and from a place where we make the mistakes and acknowledge that these are mistakes and that we've got to try and do better next time. And once I acknowledged that, this is part of a plan to make me better and to grow me as a person, I then quickly realized that every time I made a mistake, there was almost a line in the sand where I could go this far and no further. The minute I got to that line in the sand, every mistake I made and everything that I got wrong only went wrong up to a certain point, up to that line in the sand. And once I hit that line in the sand, God pulled me out immediately. God intervened. God took the wheel. And God pushed me on a different path. God let me go just deep enough into my mistakes and my errors so that I could learn the lesson, and He would then pull me out once the lesson was learned. And what I used to see as luck was actually me hitting that line in the sand and God saying, you've learned the lesson, now grow from it, let's get out of here, let's move on to the next one. And the more I acknowledged that, and then suddenly I started noticing more of these lessons. And as I noticed more of these lessons, they became a little more apparent. This thing is happening because I'm being prepared for that thing. And hey, that thing happened so that I could be ready for this challenge. So sometimes the challenges stack where you've got to get through the one challenge. It's like levels in a game. You've got to get through the one challenge to get to the next challenge, to get to the next level, to get to the next level. And as you build up those levels, your skill in the game firstly increases, and secondly, you reach another level where you are capable of taking on a bigger challenge, because the actual challenge at the end that God has for you is the big one. That's the one where He uses you to shape the world and to change the world for something better. And once you acknowledge it, and once you realize that each one of these challenges is a stepping stone to a bigger challenge that's going to build you for another thing, I for one started paying attention to it, and I started noticing it. And I started noticing it, and I realized, okay, this is just part of the next challenge. Then my faith increased, and I realized that, you know what, this is just one of those challenges. Then every time a new challenge or a new obstacle or a new thing that tripped me up happened, I went into it with my eyes open and with faith, and I kind of said to myself, this is just one of those things. God is at work again. Let God do His thing. We're going to come out the other side. There's a dragon to be slayed. God's giving me the tools. And the more I did this and I operated from a place of faith, the more I noticed God's work and God's hand in my life and in these challenges and how He gets me through these challenges. And interestingly, as He worked me through these challenges and let me go through them and sort of pulled me out at the right moment, I noticed more of these challenges happening. I accepted them for what they were, and because I accepted them, they happen more often. And as they happen more often, I accepted them more. And the more accepting I became of God's work, the more these miracles happened, and these little miracles compounded. And the more I saw these challenges and obstacles as miracles, the more the miracles happened, the more I accepted that they're miracles, the more the miracles happened, and it created a spiral in my life. And before long, I was sitting in a place of pure gratitude, where I was actually grateful for the challenges because I knew it was shaping me for something better. And then what happened in conjunction with that was I ended up sitting, when these challenges came, I didn't sit in the negative place for long. We all have challenges. We all go through things that we struggle with. As the struggles came and as the obstacles came, because I was better equipped, I didn't stay in that space for that long. Suddenly, I could deal with the challenge quicker. I could get out of the challenge quicker, and I can move back into a place of gratitude a lot faster. And then the cycle kind of happens a lot quicker, and we get back to gratitude, go to the miracles, we get back to gratitude, and we get strong and strong as it happens. And then a thought hit me. This is a lot of work for one creator to go through, for one individual. What makes me so special that God would put in all this effort for little old me? It's a lot of effort for one person, and it's a lot of faith for God to put in one person. And then I realized I must be special. I must be special to Him. I've always felt, and going through these things, it's taught me that I'm nothing without God. God is everything. I'm absolutely nothing without Him. And a lot of people will look at that statement and see the negative in it, and they would go, I'm nothing without God, which again reinforces the idea that I'm nothing. If it wasn't for God, I would be nothing. I am nothing. But hang on. Whoa. Hang on a minute. Hear me out. If our Creator feels that I'm worth all that effort, all that time, that entire cycle, all the faith, all the times I've let Him down and I've made the wrong decisions, He stuck with me anyway and ran me through the process every single time. Yes, I'm nothing without God, but that's not a negative thing. That means that that same God that created all of this believes I'm worth it. I'm worth His time. He could have been doing anything else in the world. He could have been feeding hungry kids. He could have been ending wars. But He took time out of His day to run me through the grinder so that I can be a better person and I can learn some skills so that I can be of some value to this world. And some value to my children and to the people that are in my life. That says a lot. You mean to tell me, and this applies to you, every single one of you watching this, you mean to tell me that of all the things that God has to do with His day, He's got the time to make sure that we are getting our exercise in, our spiritual exercise, our mental exercise, the exercise of our hearts. You mean to say with all that He's doing, He takes all that time out for us? That right there qualifies you. That right there qualifies me. So the next time that little voice in your head, that little lying voice in your head says to you, you're not worthy of love, you're not worthy of a person, you are nothing, like I was told not too long ago, I mean nothing. The next time that little voice or human being says to you that you are nothing, you're not worth love, you're not worth it, you're useless, all those little things that little lying voice says in your head, and the people around you that are angry with you, remind yourself that your Creator, the source of everything around us, has qualified you. To them you are worth it. The perfect architect, the busiest executive in the universe created you, and to them you are worth it. To them you are worth the time. Let's think about that for a second. Our Creator, our Father, the source of all that is, has qualified you through His love and His grace. And He has put His hand on you, and He's put all the time and effort into making you who you are. Whether you are perfect or not, none of us is perfect. We all make mistakes. But despite our imperfections, God sees perfection in us. He takes the time to mold us, to put us through the grind. And when we hit that line in the sand where if you cross it, there's no coming back, He pulls you back. He puts you on a different path. He's the architect of your life. And He's trying to work in conjunction with you. So the next time somebody says to you, you're nothing, the next time that voice decides to tell you lies, make as I did or do as I did, just smile, because you know better. God has qualified you. No human being on this planet can go against what God has said. Your Creator says you enough. So who are they to argue with that? Who are you to argue with that? Who is that voice to argue with that? Our Creator's decided you are enough. You are enough. I am enough. God says so. The next time someone disagrees with that, just smile at them and leave the room. I love you guys.